Chen opened the security app on his phone, expecting nothing. 15 caregivers before her had failed, stolen from him, given up on his son, left them worse than they found them. So when he saw the wheelchair sitting empty in the middle of the therapy room, his stomach dropped. Then he saw him, his son, his paralyzed, mute son. The boy doctor said would never stand, never walk, never speak. Standing, taking steps, walking toward her outstretched arms. And then Marcus heard it, a sound he'd given up hope of ever hearing. His son's voice. "Miss Elena." Marcus's phone slipped from his hand. His back hit the wall. And the man who had built a tech empire worth $3 billion, the man who had accepted impossible as final, watched everything he believed shatter on a screen in his own home. 3 years ago, Chen lost everything that mattered. His wife, Sophia, collapsed during their son's second birthday party. Brain aneurysm. No warning, no symptoms, no time to say goodbye. One moment she was laughing, holding their son, singing happy birthday. The next moment, she was on the floor. She died before the ambulance arrived. Marcus held her in his arms while their son watched, silent, confused, too young to understand that his world had just ended. The boy's name was Daniel, 2 years old, dark hair like his mother, eyes that used to sparkle with curiosity. He'd been talking in full sentences, singing songs, asking 1,000 questions a day. After Sophia died, Daniel stopped, completely stopped. No words, no sounds, just silence. At first, the doctors said it was trauma. Give him time. Children process grief differently. He'll come back when he's ready. But Daniel didn't come back. Weeks passed, then months. Marcus hired child psychologists, trauma specialists, speech therapists. They tried play therapy, art therapy, music therapy, every therapy that existed. Nothing worked. Then came the second blow. 6 months after Sophia's death, Daniel had a seizure. A massive one that left him in the hospital for 2 weeks. When he came out, the doctors delivered the verdict that destroyed what little hope Marcus had left. Cerebral palsy. Severe. The seizure had triggered something in Daniel's brain, activated a condition that had been dormant, waiting. "Mr. Chen, we need to prepare you," the neurologist said, her voice clinical, detached. Based on the brain imaging and muscle response tests, walking is highly unlikely. His muscle tone is severely compromised. The neural pathways necessary for independent mobility are significantly damaged. Marcus stared at her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your son will most likely never walk independently. He'll need a wheelchair, possibly for life." Marcus felt the room tilt. But he was walking before. He was running, jumping. That was before the seizure, Mr. Chen. His brain has changed. The damage is permanent. Permanent. That word followed Marcus everywhere. Daniel would never walk, never speak, never recover. Permanent. Marcus threw money at the problem. He flew in specialists from Johns Hopkins, from Stanford, from Switzerland. He purchased the most advanced therapy equipment available, standing frames, gait trainers, electrical stimulation devices that cost more than most people's cars. Nothing changed. Daniel sat in his small wheelchair, silent, still, eyes distant. Like part of him had died with Sophia and never came back. And Marcus, alone in his Silicon Valley mansion, started to accept what the doctors said. His son would never stand, never run, never chase other children through the hallways like Marcus once imagined. He buried that hope right next to Sophia. Then came the caregivers. 15 in 3 years. The first one quit after 3 weeks. "I can't handle this," she said. "He just sits there. He doesn't respond to anything. It's too depressing." The second one lasted 2 months before Marcus caught her on her phone during therapy sessions, scrolling social media while Daniel sat alone in his wheelchair, staring at nothing. The third seemed perfect, experienced, credentialed, came with glowing references. Until Marcus discovered she'd been recording Daniel's therapy sessions without permission and posting about my special needs client on a mommy blog for sympathy clicks. After that, something broke inside Marcus. One caregiver stole jewelry from Sophia's bedroom. Another leaked Daniel's medical information to a tabloid journalist for $5,000. One claimed she was doing experimental treatments, and was secretly giving Daniel unproven supplements she bought online. Each one came with promises. Each one left with Marcus's trust bleeding out behind them. He installed cameras in every room, every hallway. He watched the footage at night, rewinding, zooming, looking for the lie, the angle, the betrayal he knew was coming. Control became his only protection. So when Elena Morales walked through his front door on a Tuesday morning, 32 years old, quiet, composed, carrying nothing but a small bag and a worn Bible, Marcus didn't see a person. He saw the 16th failure waiting to happen. The interview lasted 7 minutes. Marcus sat behind his desk in the home office, Elena across from him. She wore simple clothes, clean but not expensive. Her hands were folded in her lap. She didn't fidget, didn't try to fill the silence with nervous chatter. "You've read Daniel's file?" Marcus asked, not looking up from his laptop. "Yes, sir." "Then you understand his condition. Cerebral palsy, severe muscle tone issues, nonverbal. He requires total care, feeding, bathing, transfers, everything." "I understand." Marcus finally looked at her. 15 caregivers have failed in 3 years. Some quit. Some I fired. Some betrayed my trust in ways I'm still dealing with legally. Why should I believe you'll be different? Elena met his eyes. Her voice was calm, steady. "I can't promise I'll be different, Mr. Chen. I can only promise I'll show up every day and do my best for your son." "No bonding," Marcus said flatly. "No emotional attachment. No hope speeches. Follow the medical protocol exactly. The therapists have outlined everything Daniel needs. You stick to that schedule. Nothing more." "I understand. The doctors have made their prognosis clear. Daniel will not walk. He will not speak. Your job is to keep him comfortable, maintain his therapy routine, and prevent regression." "That's it." Elena nodded slowly. "May I ask a question, Mr. Chen?" Marcus tensed. "What? What is Daniel like?" The question caught him off guard. "What? What is he like? What makes him smile? What brings him comfort?" Marcus stared at her. No caregiver had ever asked that. They asked about pay, about schedules, about time off. Not about Daniel. I don't know," Marcus admitted quietly. "He doesn't smile." Elena's expression softened. "Just slightly. Then I guess we'll find out together." Marcus should have fired her right then. The answer was too gentle, too hopeful, too dangerous. But he didn't. "You start tomorrow, 7 a.m. Don't be late." Elena arrived at 6:55 a.m. Marcus watched through the camera in the foyer as she stepped inside, removed her coat, and stood there for a moment, looking around. Not like she was evaluating the wealth. The marble floors, the original artwork, the chandelier that cost more than most people's annual salary. She was just observing, taking it in. Martha, the head housekeeper who'd been with the family since before Daniel was born, greeted her warmly. The two women spoke quietly. Martha led Elena down the long hallway toward the therapy room where Daniel spent most of his days. Marcus switched cameras. Daniel sat in his wheelchair by the window. 3 years old now, small for his age. His legs were thin, muscle atrophy from lack of use. His arms rested limply on the armrests. His head was tilted slightly to one side, eyes focused on nothing in particular. The night nurse was finishing her shift, reviewing charts. She barely glanced at Daniel. Elena entered the room slowly. Marcus leaned closer to his monitor. She didn't go straight to Daniel. She stood in the doorway for a long moment, just watching him. Then she walked around the room, looking at the equipment, the therapy mats, the shelves of unused toys. Finally, she approached Daniel's wheelchair. She knelt down, slowly, carefully, until she was at his eye level. "Hi, Daniel," she said softly. "My name is Miss Elena. I'm going to be spending time with you." Daniel didn't react, didn't blink, didn't move. Elena didn't seem bothered. She just stayed there, kneeling, her voice gentle. "I know you probably don't want another new person here. I know you've had a lot of people come and go. But I want you to know something." She paused. "I'm not going anywhere. Even if you don't talk to me. Even if you don't look at me. I'm staying. Because you matter, Daniel. You matter so much." Marcus's throat tightened. Elena reached out slowly and touched Daniel's hand. Just her fingers resting lightly on his. "We're going to figure this out together, okay? You and me." Daniel's eyes flickered. Just slightly. just for a second. But Marcus saw it. Elena didn't follow the protocol. Marcus noticed it on day 3. The medical schedule was strict: 7 a.m., positioning and stretching; 8 a.m., feeding; 9 a.m., passive range of motion exercises; 10 a.m., rest period. On and on, every hour accounted for, every activity documented. But Elena added things. Small things at first. She brought a small Bluetooth speaker into the therapy room. Soft music, old hymns, gentle piano melodies. Nothing loud or jarring. Just presence. Marcus watched through the camera, his finger hovering over the intercom button. This wasn't in the protocol. But Daniel turned his head toward the sound. Just slightly. Just a few degrees. But he turned. Elena noticed. She smiled softly and adjusted the volume, making it just a little louder. "You like that, don't you?" she whispered. "Music helps us feel things when words are too hard." Marcus didn't press the intercom button. On day 5, Elena started talking to Daniel like he could understand her. Not baby talk. Not the oversimplified sentences the therapist used. Real conversation. "You know what I did this morning before I came here?" she asked while helping him with his exercises. "I saw the most beautiful sunrise. Orange and pink all across the sky. Made me think about how every day is a new chance. A new beginning." She moved his legs gently, the prescribed range of motion exercises, but she did them slowly, carefully, talking the whole time. "Your mama loved sunrises, didn't she? Martha told me. She said your mama used to wake up early just to watch the sky change colors." Marcus's hands clenched into fists. Daniel's breathing changed. Marcus saw it on the monitor. Faster, more shallow. Elena kept talking, her voice gentle. "I bet she's watching over you right now. I bet she sees how strong you are, how hard you're fighting every single day." A single tear slid down Daniel's cheek. Elena saw it. She stopped the exercises immediately and cupped Daniel's face with both hands. "Oh, sweetheart, it's okay to miss her. It's okay to be sad." She pulled him close, carefully supporting his head and neck, and just held him. Daniel didn't make a sound, but his small body shook. Marcus sat in his office, staring at the screen, his own eyes burning. When was the last time he'd held his son like that? When was the last time he'd let Daniel grieve instead of just existing? He couldn't remember. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. By week 2, the changes were undeniable. Daniel's physical therapist, Dr. Patel, arrived for the weekly session. She'd been working with Daniel for 18 months, maintaining his muscle tone, preventing contractures, keeping him comfortable in his limitations. Marcus watched through the camera as Dr. Patel examined Daniel. She started with his legs, moving them through their range of motion. Her hands paused. She did it again, more slowly this time, her brow furrowed. Then she looked up at Elena, who was standing nearby. "His muscle tone has changed," Dr. Patel said. "Significantly." Elena stepped closer. "Change how?" "It's better. Less rigid. More responsive." Dr. Patel moved Daniel's arm, testing the resistance. "This is unusual. What specific exercises have you been doing?" Elena explained her routine. The music, the talking, the gentle movements repeated throughout the day, not just during scheduled therapy time. Dr. Patel nodded slowly, writing notes on her tablet. "Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I'll adjust the official protocol to incorporate your methods." Marcus sat back in his chair. His son was improving, actually improving, doing things the doctors said wouldn't happen. And he'd almost stopped this woman on day 3 for playing music. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat in his office at 2 a.m., pulling up footage from the past 2 weeks. Watching it. Really watching it. Elena on the floor with Daniel, moving his legs in walking patterns. Over and over. The same movement. The same rhythm. Patient. Steady. Never frustrated. Never giving up. Elena holding Daniel's hands, helping him bear weight on his feet for just seconds at a time. His small legs trembling. Then holding. Then trembling again. But each day, he held a little longer. Elena doing arm exercises to music, Daniel's tiny limbs moving slowly at first, then smoother, more controlled. Marcus pulled up footage from week 1. Daniel sitting still in his wheelchair, vacant, distant. Then footage from yesterday. Daniel's eyes tracking Elena as she moved around the room, his head turning to follow her voice, his fingers curling slightly when she sang. The difference was undeniable. Marcus opened a new browser window. His hands trembled as he typed. Neuroplasticity in children with cerebral palsy articles flooded the screen. Medical journals, case studies, research from universities he recognized. He clicked the first one. Early intervention in pediatric cerebral palsy cases has shown remarkable results in neural pathway development. Another article, repetitive motor pattern training, can stimulate the brain to form new connections, bypassing damaged areas. And another, the infant and toddler brain demonstrates extraordinary plasticity. With consistent, targeted intervention, children with CP have achieved mobility outcomes far exceeding initial prognosis. Marcus read until his eyes burned, until the words blurred together, until 4 a.m. crept past and the house sat silent around him. Everything Elena had said, the neural pathways, the brain's ability to rewire itself, the importance of early intervention. It was all there, in black and white, published in medical journals. And he'd never looked, not once in 3 years. He'd taken those first doctors at their word, accepted their verdict like a death sentence, stopped researching, stopped questioning, stopped hoping. Marcus closed the laptop and sat in darkness. His son was improving, actually improving, doing things those initial specialists said he'd never do. And he'd almost fired the woman responsible. His stomach turned. For 3 years, he'd poured money into maintaining Daniel's limitations. Expensive wheelchairs, medical equipment, nurses who kept him comfortable in his diagnosis. But he'd never once fought for something more. Elena had been here 2 weeks, making $15 an hour, and she'd accomplished what his millions hadn't touched. Because she believed, and he'd stopped believing the day Sophia died. Marcus's eyes burned, his throat closed. Shame. That's what this feeling was. Deep, crushing shame. He'd failed his son, not by loving him too little, but by expecting too little. By accepting defeat before the fight even started. Sophia would never have accepted it. She would have researched every journal, consulted every specialist, tried every method. She would have fought with everything she had. But Sophia was gone, and Marcus had buried his fight with her, until Elena walked through his door and showed him what he'd forgotten. That giving up was a choice, and he'd been choosing it every single day. Marcus didn't plan to confront her. It just happened. 3 weeks of watching through screens. 3 weeks of footage that kept him awake at night. 3 weeks of seeing his son respond to a woman who broke every rule he'd set. He couldn't take it anymore. Thursday afternoon, Marcus left his office and walked down the hallway toward the therapy room. His footsteps echoed against the marble. Each step felt heavier than the last. He didn't knock, just pushed the door open and stood there. Elena was on the floor with Daniel. She had his small legs positioned in her hands, moving them in that same rhythmic pattern. Left, right, like she was teaching his muscles to remember something they'd never learned. She looked up when the door opened. No surprise in her eyes, no fear, just calm acknowledgement. Mr. Chen. Marcus's voice came out harder than he intended. What are you doing? Elena didn't stop the movement. Motor pattern training. It helps build neural pathways. That's not in the protocol. No, sir. It's not. Marcus stepped into the room. I gave you specific instructions. Follow the medical plan. No improvising. No experimental treatments. Elena gently lowered Daniel's legs and stood up. She wiped her hands on her pants and faced him directly. The medical plan has him sitting in a wheelchair all day with minimal stimulation. That's not treatment, Mr. Chen. That's maintenance. Marcus's jaw tightened. The doctors gave you a prognosis based on statistics. Elena's voice stayed even, but something fierce lived beneath the surface. They looked at scans and charts and told you what usually happens. They didn't tell you what's possible. They're specialists. They've seen hundreds of cases like this. Have they seen your son? The question hung in the air. Marcus stared at her. Excuse me. Elena took a breath. Your son isn't a statistic, Mr. Chen. He's not a case study or a data point. He's a child. And children deserve someone who sees them, not their diagnosis. Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. You think you know better than doctors who've studied this for decades. I think I know that giving up on a child is the one thing guaranteed to fail. Silence. Marcus's hands were shaking. From anger or something else, he couldn't tell. You're filling his head with false hope, he said quietly. When this doesn't work, and it won't, he'll be devastated. Elena looked at him for a long moment. Something shifted in her eyes. Not pity, something deeper. He's 3 years old, Mr. Chen. He doesn't know what false hope is. He only knows what he feels. And right now, he feels someone believing in him. She paused. Maybe for the first time, the words landed like a slap. Marcus opened his mouth, closed it. Elena turned back to Daniel, kneeling beside his wheelchair. You hired me to care for him, she said softly, not looking at Marcus. That's what I'm doing. She resumed the leg movements. Gentle, patient, consistent. Marcus stood there, watching her ignore him. His mind screamed to fire her. Right now, call the agency. Have her replaced by morning. But his feet wouldn't move. Because deep down, in a place he'd locked away, a voice whispered something he didn't want to hear. What if she's right? Marcus turned and walked out. He didn't say another word, but he didn't fire her either. That night, Marcus sat at his desk with a termination letter open on his laptop. The cursor blinked at the end of the first sentence. Patient and unforgiving. Dear Miss Morales, effective immediately, your services are no longer required. He'd written those words 15 times before. Different names. Same outcome. His fingers knew the rhythm. Type the letter. Call the agency. Sign the paperwork. Move on. But tonight, his hands wouldn't cooperate. Marcus stared at the screen until his eyes ached. Then he minimized the document and pulled up the security footage. The house was quiet. Lights dimmed. Everyone should have been asleep hours ago. But the therapy room camera showed a soft glow coming from inside. Elena was still there. Marcus leaned closer to the monitor. She sat on the floor in the center of the room, cross-legged, Daniel's wheelchair positioned beside her. A small lamp on the shelf cast warm shadows across her face. Daniel was supposed to be in his medical bed by now. The night nurse should have transferred him an hour ago. But there he was, still with her. Elena wasn't doing exercises, wasn't following any protocol. She was just sitting with him, humming a melody Andrew didn't recognize. Something old and gentle, like a song passed down through generations. Marcus turned up the volume. Her voice came through the speakers, soft and clear. She reached up and touched Daniel's hand where it rested on his armrest. Didn't grab it, just laid her fingers over his. You did so good today, she whispered. I'm so proud of you. Do you know that? I'm proud of you. Daniel's fingers curled slightly. Just a small movement, but intentional. Marcus's throat tightened. Elena held his hand for a long moment, then shifted to face him more directly. Sweet boy, she murmured, her voice thick with emotion. You're so much stronger than anyone knows. I see it, even if they don't. I see it. She paused, tears glistening in her eyes. Your mama would be so proud of you. She's watching, you know. She sees how hard you're fighting. Daniel's eyes, which had been half closed, opened wider. Elena noticed. She smiled through her tears. You feel her, don't you? She's right here with us. Then Elena did something that made Marcus's chest crack open. She lifted Daniel's tiny hand and pressed it against her cheek. Her eyes closed. I see you, she whispered. All of you. Every piece. You're not broken, baby. You're just waiting. And I'll wait with you. As long as it takes. A tear slipped down her cheek. Marcus stared at the screen. This woman. This stranger. She was sitting in his house at 11 o'clock at night, crying over his son. Talking to him like he understood. Like he mattered. Like his life meant something beyond medical charts and therapy schedules. When was the last time Marcus had done that? When was the last time he just sat with Daniel? Not as a worried father calculating costs. Not as a man reviewing therapy reports. Just as his dad. Just being present. He couldn't remember. The realization hit him like a fist to the chest. Marcus closed the laptop slowly. The termination letter sat unfinished in its window, waiting. He should send it. Logic demanded it. Elena was dangerous. She was filling his son with hope that would shatter him. She was defying doctors who'd studied these conditions for decades. She was breaking every rule he'd established to protect his family. But another voice spoke. Quieter. Deeper. What if she sees something you stopped looking for? Marcus stood up and walked to the window. The garden sat dark below, moonlight catching the edges of untrimmed hedges. He thought of Sophia. What would she say if she could see him now? See what he'd become. A man who watched his son through screens. A man so afraid of losing more that he'd stop being present for what remained. She would hate this. She would hate him. Marcus pressed his forehead against the cold glass. He deleted the termination letter. Told himself it was exhaustion. Finding another caregiver meant paperwork, background checks, interviews. He didn't have the energy. But as he climbed the stairs toward his empty bedroom, he heard it. Soft humming drifting from the therapy room below. Elena was still singing to his son. And Marcus realized the truth he'd been avoiding. He wasn't keeping her because firing her was inconvenient. He was keeping her because she was the only person in 3 years who hadn't given up on Daniel. And somewhere deep inside, he needed to see what happened when someone refused to accept impossible, even if it destroyed him. Week 4. Marcus stopped pretending he wasn't obsessed. Every night after the house went dark, he'd sit in his office and pull up hours of footage, fast-forwarding through empty hallways, pausing on moments that made his chest tight, rewinding scenes he needed to see again and again. Elena had changed everything. The therapy room felt different. She'd moved Daniel's wheelchair closer to the window so he could see the garden. Replaced the sterile white blankets with a soft blue one she'd brought from home. Added 2 plants on the windowsill. He needs to see things grow, she told Martha. Marcus hadn't stopped her. Then the real changes started. Thursday morning, Dr. Patel arrived for Daniel's weekly physical therapy session. Marcus watched through the camera as the therapist examined Daniel. She started with his arms, moved them through range of motion. Her hands paused. She did it again, more slowly this time. Then she looked up at Elena with wide eyes. His muscle tone, Dr. Patel said quietly. This is significant improvement. Elena stepped closer. Really? Yes. This level of change in 4 weeks. Dr. Patel moved Daniel's legs now, testing resistance. This is highly unusual. What specific exercises have you been doing? Elena explained. The music, the repetitive movements throughout the day, the way she talked to him constantly, engaged him, refused to let him retreat into silence. Dr. Patel nodded slowly, making notes. I need to document this. This kind of progress. It shouldn't be possible this quickly. Marcus sat back in his chair. His heart was pounding. It shouldn't be possible. But it was happening. That night, Marcus didn't just watch current footage. He went back, day by day, week by week. He watched Elena on the floor with Daniel, moving his legs in walking patterns. Over and over. The same movement, the same rhythm. Patient, steady, never frustrated, never giving up. He watched her hold Daniel's hands, helping him bear weight on his feet for just seconds at a time. His small legs trembling, then holding, then trembling again. But each day, he held a little longer. He watched her doing arm exercises to music, Daniel's tiny limbs moving slowly at first, then smoother, more controlled. Marcus pulled up footage from the first week Elena arrived. Daniel sat still in his wheelchair, vacant, distant. Then footage from yesterday. Daniel reaching for a toy across his tray, his foot tapping slightly to music, his eyes tracking Elena as she moved around the room. The difference was undeniable. Marcus opened a new browser window. His hands trembled as he searched. Selective mutism recovery, children more articles. More research. More evidence that everything Elena believed was possible. Children with selective mutism often recover when they feel safe, when pressure is removed, when someone creates an environment of unconditional acceptance. Marcus read until 3 in the morning. Then he made a decision. Tomorrow, he wouldn't just watch through cameras. Tomorrow, he would actually try. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. Friday morning, Marcus did something he hadn't done in months. He went to the therapy room. actually went inside. Elena was sitting on the floor with Daniel, reading a picture book about trains. She looked up when the door opened. Mr. Chen. Surprise flickered across her face, but she didn't stop reading. Marcus stood awkwardly in the doorway. May I join you? Elena's eyes softened. She gestured to the space beside her. Of course. Marcus sat down, stiffly, uncomfortably. He didn't know where to put his hands. Daniel watched him with those dark eyes. Sophia's eyes. Elena continued reading, her voice gentle. And the little blue engine said, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. Marcus listened, watched his son's face, saw the way Daniel's eyes followed the pictures, the way his breathing changed when Elena did different voices for different characters. When she finished the story, Elena closed the book and looked at Daniel. What did you think, sweetheart? Did you like that one? Daniel didn't respond, but his gaze shifted to the book, then back to Elena's face. She smiled. I think you did. We'll read it again tomorrow. Then she turned to Marcus. Would you like to do his exercises with me? I can show you the patterns. Marcus's throat tightened. I don't know if I'll do it right. There's no wrong way to love your son, Mr. Chen. The words hit him hard. Elena gently took Daniel's legs and began the movements. Left, right, left, right. You just support his ankles like this. Move slowly. Let his muscles remember the pattern. Marcus watched her hands. The gentleness. The patience. Can I try? Elena's face lit up. Please. She guided Marcus's hands to Daniel's small legs. Showed him the rhythm. Marcus began moving them. Slowly. Carefully. And Daniel didn't pull away. Marcus's eyes burned. This was his son. His boy. And he'd been watching him through screens instead of holding him. You're doing great, Elena said softly. They worked together for 20 minutes. Elena guiding. Marcus learning. Daniel between them. His small body responding to his father's touch for the first time in months. When they finished, Marcus's voice came out broken. Thank you for not giving up on him. Elena shook her head. I could never give up on him, Mr. Chen. He's worth fighting for. Marcus looked at his son. Yes, he is. 2 more weeks passed. Marcus restructured his schedule. He started working from home 3 days a week. Cut back on travel. Actually showed up for Daniel's therapy sessions. He learned the exercises, the patterns, the way to talk to Daniel without expecting answers. And slowly, so slowly, Daniel began to change. Not just physically, something deeper. His eyes held more light. His body relaxed more when Marcus held him. He even smiled once, small but real, when Marcus sang one of Sophia's favorite songs. The progress was undeniable. But then came the day that changed everything. Thursday afternoon, Marcus was in a video conference with his Singapore office. An important meeting, a deal worth $50 million. He was half listening, reviewing documents on his second monitor, when a motion alert on his phone went off. Therapy room. Marcus frowned. It was 3 p.m. Elena should be doing Daniel's afternoon exercises. Nothing unusual, but something made him open the security app. The image took a moment to register. The wheelchair sat against the wall. Empty. Marcus's stomach dropped. Where was Daniel? Then he saw them. Center of the therapy room. Hardwood floor gleaming in the afternoon light. Daniel, standing. His small legs shaking violently, but holding his weight. Elena knelt about 5 feet away, her arms stretched wide open. Tears streaming down her face. Come on, baby, she whispered. Come to me. You can do it. One step. Marcus's breath stopped. His paralyzed son, the boy doctor said would never stand, never walk. He was upright, wobbly, shaking, but standing on his own 2 feet. Daniel, sweetheart, I know you can. Elena's voice broke. Just one step. Trust yourself. Daniel's small foot lifted from the ground, hovered, then landed again. An inch forward. A step. Marcus's hand flew to his mouth. The conference call voices faded to nothing. He couldn't hear them, couldn't see anything except the screen. Daniel took another step, then another. His legs trembled violently. His arms were out for balance. But he was walking, actually walking. 3 steps. 4. 5. Elena was crying openly now. Yes. Oh my God, yes. Look at you. 6 steps. 7. Daniel reached her. His small body pitched forward, and Elena caught him, pulling him against her chest. "You did it," she sobbed. "You did it, baby. You walked." Then something else happened. Something that shattered Marcus's entire world. Daniel opened his mouth and spoke. "Miss Elena." His voice, rough from 3 years of silence, but clear, real. "I did it." Elena pulled back, her hands cupping his face, tears pouring down her cheeks. "You did, sweetheart. You walked and you talked." "Oh, Daniel, I'm so proud of you." Daniel smiled, a real full smile. "Again?" he asked quietly. "Yes, baby. Yes. As many times as you want." Marcus's phone slipped from his fingers. It clattered against the desk, but he didn't hear it. His knees buckled. He slid down from his chair, back scraping against the desk until he sat on the floor. His legs wouldn't hold him. On the phone screen, face down but audio still playing, he could hear Elena's voice. "Let's try again. You ready?" "Ready, Miss Elena." Daniel's voice. His son's voice. After 3 years of silence. 3 years of doctors saying never. 3 years of accepting impossible. And there he was, walking, talking, alive. Marcus pressed both hands against his face and wept. Not quiet tears, not controlled grief. This was something deeper, something breaking open inside him that had been locked away since Sophia died. Every failure, every night spent watching screens instead of holding his son. The shame, the fear, the hope he'd buried so deep he forgot existed. It all came flooding out in waves that shook his entire body. His son could walk. His son could speak. And he'd almost given up. He'd almost accepted permanent. Marcus didn't know how long he sat on that floor. Minutes, maybe longer. When he finally found the strength to stand, his legs felt hollow. He grabbed the edge of the desk and pulled himself up. His phone lay face down, still showing the therapy room feed. Marcus didn't pick it up. He didn't need to watch anymore. He walked out of his office on unsteady feet, down the long hallway, past the photos of Sophia he'd finally rehung last week, past the silence he'd built around himself like armor. The therapy room door was open. He stopped in the doorway. Elena sat on the floor, Daniel in her lap. They were both exhausted. Daniel's small body was limp against her chest, but he was smiling, actually smiling. Elena held him like he was made of something precious. She looked up when she sensed Marcus there. Their eyes met. Marcus expected to see triumph in her face. Pride. A look that said, "I told you so." But that's not what he saw. He saw compassion. For him. Elena didn't say anything. Just watched him with those steady eyes, holding his son like she'd always held him. Like he mattered. Marcus's legs gave out again. He knelt in the doorway, unable to take another step. "Ow!" His voice cracked. "How did you know?" Elena looked down at Daniel, then back at him. "I didn't know, Mr. Chen." Her voice was soft, gentle. "I just believed." Something broke inside Marcus. The last wall, the final barrier. He crawled forward on his knees until he reached them. His hands shook as he touched Daniel's face. His son looked at him, really looked at him, and smiled. "Daddy," Daniel whispered. The word destroyed Marcus. He gathered Daniel into his arms, pulled him close, pressed his face against his son's small head, breathed in his scent. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." He said it over and over. An apology for every day he'd spent hiding. Every night he'd chosen fear over faith. Every moment he'd let grief steal from them. Elena quietly moved back, giving them space. But Marcus reached out and grabbed her hand. "Stay," he said. "Please." She nodded, tears in her eyes. They sat there together on the therapy room floor. A broken father holding his son. A faithful woman who'd refused to give up. The wheelchair pushed against the wall. No longer needed. Marcus looked at Elena through blurred vision. "You gave him his voice back," he said. "You gave him his legs." She shook her head slowly. "No, Mr. Chen. He gave himself those things. I just reminded him he could try." Marcus closed his eyes. Sophia would have loved this woman. Sophia would have loved this moment. And somewhere, he believed she was watching. The afternoon light shifted through the windows, casting golden warmth across the floor. The house felt different now. Not empty. Not abandoned. Alive. Daniel pulled back slightly and looked at his father. Daddy, stay? Marcus's voice broke. Yes, baby. I'm staying. I promise. I'm not going anywhere. Ever. Ever. Daniel's eyes were wide. Hopeful. Ever. Daniel smiled and wrapped his small arms around Marcus's neck. And Marcus held his son and let himself feel something he'd forgotten existed. Hope. Real hope. The kind that costs everything and gives back more. 6 months later, the house didn't feel empty anymore. Marcus had restructured his entire life. He worked from home 4 days a week. No more 16-hour days. No more missing bedtime. He knew Daniel's favorite songs now. The games he liked to play. The stories he asked for every night. He was there for breakfast every morning. Dinner every night. Bad dreams and good days. He showed up, and slowly, so slowly, Daniel began to trust him again. Elena wasn't just a caregiver anymore. She was family. Auntie Elena. She ate dinner with them, celebrated birthdays, prayed with them before bed. And Daniel? Daniel was walking now, running through the hallways, laughing, talking, asking 1,000 questions a day, just like Sophia had always hoped. One Saturday evening, as the sun dipped low over the valley, Marcus found them all in the garden. Elena and Daniel were on their knees in the dirt, planting something, their hands covered in soil, laughter floating through the warm air. Marcus walked over. What are we planting? Daniel looked up, face bright. Sunflowers, Daddy. Sunflowers? Elena smiled. Martha said your wife loved them. Marcus knelt beside them, his throat tight. She did. She loved them very much. Daniel carefully pressed seeds into the earth. Why did Mommy love them? Marcus looked at Elena. She smiled gently, encouraging him. He turned back to Daniel. Your mom used to say that sunflowers always turn toward the light. No matter how dark it gets, they keep reaching for the sun. She said that's how we're supposed to live, always turning toward the light. Like us, Daniel said softly. Marcus's eyes burned. Yeah, buddy, like us. Daniel pointed at the sky. Daddy, look. A yellow butterfly had landed on one of the seed packets. Marcus and Elena both went still. The butterfly's wings opened and closed slowly in the fading light. Daniel whispered, That's Mommy. Isn't it? Elena's voice was gentle. Yes, sweet boy. That's her. Watching over you. So proud of how strong you become.